Many rabbis are afraid of having one temple president. And I've been blessed this year to now have two. And I have to tell you, it's wonderful. It is a true blessing. It is my honor, my privilege this evening to welcome up Tmima Grinvald, president of Temple Road of Torah, to start our service with a few words. And I just want to say thank you to Tmima, because she has been a wonderful Sherpa for me and a wonderful source of wisdom and knowledge. So, Tmima, welcome.
Good evening. This is really different for me to speak through a mask. This is the first time I'm doing that. I am known for someone who speaks softly. So if you do not hear me, just, kind of wave, tell me, because I really think you want to hear what I got to say tonight. And again, good evening, Shana Tova. 2 years ago, I stood here for the first time. It was an emotional moment, just like today. I introduced myself and shared a short tale of my background. Many of you were not here that night. You were likely a little down the road at my daughter's high school in Freehold and heard an inspiring speech from another Jewish leader who became my trusted partner only a few months ago, but I'll get to that later. And now, let's see where my purpose and commitment began. It was a dark evening in the early 40s, and a young Jewish teenager just came back home to his warring parents in Tech, Czechoslovakia. The rabbi of the small community had just visited his parents and delivered an onerous and painful message. If you want your son to live, he has to leave town now. The police will be coming after him as he was accused in a beating. Mom's eyes were filled with tears and Dad's was stoic when Loichi entered the room. The question did not need to be asked. It was true. They both knew that their son would always protect the other Jewish boys from the anti-Semitic attacks of the locals. This time was different. The thugs were the sons of highly connected families. After Loichi went to stop them, they rushed to tell their parents, and the police were next. It was a small town, and the word got back to the rabbi quickly. That was the last time my dad, Loichi, saw his parents. At the age of 16, my grandparents packed a bag with clothes and food and took my dad to the night train to Budapest, where his older sister Sarah lived. Loichi and Sarah both stayed together on and off throughout the horrible years of the Holocaust, dodging danger, death, and Nazis multiple times. When finally captured, on a death march through Budapest, my dad tore the yellow star from Sarah's shirt and shoved her into the crowd. Every time the Nazis would stop to count the rows, he would raise his two arms in the air so the guards would not notice that she was missing. Months later, on a march to another labor camp, Loichi gave his only warm blanket to a young Jewish mother trying to keep her baby warm. As a result, his legs froze in the cold January night, and he had to go through amputation in the field. After recovery from additional surgeries, my dad made Aliyah to Israel in 1949. In Israel, Eliezer, my dad's Hebrew name, met Hinda through mutual friends. They were actually both from the same county in Czechoslovakia. Hinda made Aliyah to Israel with the Jewish aid and rescue group Youth Aliyah that gathered youth survivors from Auschwitz and other death camps to bring them to a safer land, Israel. She yearned to build new life after the horrors of Europe. Hinda connected to like-minded community one that processed their trauma through focusing on the promise of the possibilities of the new land. When the independent war of 1948 began, Egyptian planes bombed the streets Hinda was staying in Tel Aviv. The sirens to leave the shelters mixed with sirens to go back inside. The confusion resulted in many injuries. Hinda's body was pierced with shrapnel and she lost her left arm. Her Jewish friends were the ones who took care of her during her recovery. She was still determined to make a beautiful life. Her dream became reality when she met Eliezer. The understanding they both shared led them to fall in love. He said to her, "You'll be my legs and I'll be your arm," as they vowed to build a thriving Jewish home and a better world. 3 children, 8 grandkids, and 3 great-grandkids later, their legacy continues to the next generations as they're no longer with us. In Hebrew, there is a saying, from Shoah to Tkuma, from calamity to renewal. It was the ultimate journey of my parents' lives, and it has become a motive in my life. Both my parents relied on the Jewish community to move forward and sought to protect it from harm. So it is no surprise that I deeply understand that we each need this community for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. All of our lives are tied to the Jewish world we decide to create. Before I started my presidency at Temple Road of Torah, I knew that I was stepping into a complicated role. It only got more complex in ways that no one could imagine, taking a lot of sleep from my eyes. Despite the operational challenges stemming from structural changes, as well as pandemic rules of what worship can and cannot be, our congregation adjusted in no time. More than that, we had to deal with the existential issues within our temple. I was the one carrying the burden of engaging our lay leaders in assessment and strategic discussions that led us to understand we would be closing our doors. But selling our building was not the end of our spiritual home. Continuity into a merged community was the choice we made. We had to bring us from Shoah to Tkuma. We believe that this allows us to continue our journey as a flourishing Jewish community. I approached Fabian and was welcomed with integrity and excitement at the possibility. The lay leaders of Temple Shaarei Emeth and Rabbi Penkin opened their hearts to welcome us. Our combined core team worked relentlessly for many hours, negotiating the details to make this merger a successful one, delivering all of us to a stronger, viable, and thriving congregation, one that brings light to the Reformed Jews in the Western Monmouth County, New Jersey. The energy of both communities is immense, and together we can take Tikkun Olam to the next level. To mention just one example, both congregations carry a substantial food drive during the high holidays, and now we can not only fill our carts to feed the hungry on Yom Kippur, but we will also have an additional food drive during the winter months. So please, fill up your carts with the items from the shopping list for this Yom Kippur food drive. Our sisterhood and men's club already function together. Book Club, Renaissance Club, and Minyan groups are joining arms, and the opportunities to make new friends is available to all of you who decide to give it a try. On a personal level, we may each have a different interpretation on how we want to observe Jewish mitzvot. Of course, we are Reformed Jews, and we are inclusive and tolerant. Belonging is a choice. The choices we make impact not only ourselves, they impact the chain of generations. We need to stick together, as our Jewish values not only provide us with the social safety net we need at times of loss and challenge, and gives us the framework for celebrating simchas, but it also shapes the future we want for the generations ahead. With Shaarei Emeth members embracing Rodef Torah members into one congregation, we have an opportunity to impact many more lives. Each of us can find ways to support our spiritual home, take part in the community appeal, and engage in this new beginning. I would like to thank my dear husband Eli, my daughter Zohar, and my son Nim, who supported my dedication, time, and effort, and were beside me along the way. Without the choices of my parents and grandparents made, without the commitment my family has to our community, I would not have the strength to lead the temple community through the rough times and literally almost everything that could have gone wrong, and be here tonight celebrating this holy day together. I hope that we get to celebrate many more holidays together, and I would like to wish you and your family Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.